I'm now pleased to introduce Steve Adams, who is the Director of Urban Resilience for the Institute of Sustainable Communities and a facilitator for the Compact Staff Steering Committee in support of Compact implementation. Steve participated in the original creation of the Compact and has been engaged as a friend, a colleague, and a vital resource in the advancement of nearly every aspect of Compact activities during the last 9 years. Today, in keeping with our summit tradition, Steve will share with us some of the major activities and milestones by the Compact with the support of ISC during this last year. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Steve Adams. Steve.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Good morning, everybody. Delighted to be with you. It has become customary that I get a real point of privilege in being able to share lots of the updates from the cities and counties around the Compact region, particularly with respect to implementing recommendations and some of the real solutions that Dr. Hayhoe just described. It has been 2 years since our last summit, and as Mayor Furr noted this morning, last year's efforts by Palm Beach County, even though it was going to be an amazing event, Matthew had other plans for us. So given the 2-year backlog and activities to talk about, we've actually got a summit agenda which actually dives deep throughout today and tomorrow into much of the progress. So there are lots of activities, lots of points of progress that many of the panelists will be talking about today and tomorrow. So rather, I'd like to really focus my remarks on one of the major thrusts of effort over the past year, which is, in fact, the Regional Climate Action Plan. So at the first summit here, back in 2009, the county has launched the Compact process with 3 principal commitments within that instrument, one of which was the idea of a Regional Climate Action Plan as a framework document to guide policy alignment around regional climate policy, both in terms of building resilience to climate impacts, but also to reduce emissions that contribute to that. The first Regional Climate Action Plan was launched at the Key West Summit in 2012. Key Largo Summit, rather, in 2012. And in developing that first RCAP, the Compact made a really interesting choice in terms of thinking about how to structure that. It really came down to really kind of thinking about a 5-year cycle in recognition that no one has ever really tried to do this at this regional scale before. And the 5-year cycle recognized this notion of kind of planning and then doing, learning, and then reframing the strategies into a 5-year regional climate action planning process. So this, in the jargon, is adaptive management at its best. So this summit today marks the conclusion of the first regional climate action plan that was released back in 2012. It also represents the beginning of what we lovingly call RCAP 2.0. The public engagement of RCAP 2.0 would have begun last year in West Palm Beach. In fact, we had lots of fun engagement activities designed for that. But, undaunted, the Compact team has been working over the past year in assessing progress, consolidating learnings, engaging residents, experts, and local government staff, particularly municipal staff who do the hard work of implementing the RCAP recommendations. So over the past year, hundreds of people, literally hundreds of people, have shared expertise, opinions, ideas, and perspectives. Several working groups labored long and hard to produce RCAP 2.0. Appropriately, on behalf of the Compact, let me just say here publicly, there's a deep debt of gratitude owed to all of those who engaged in that process and helped to develop this new framework for regional collaboration for the next 5 years. So we're going to dive into RCAP 2.0 here, but first let me note a couple of things. RCAP 2.0 includes, as Mayor Furr noted this morning, 3 new chapters, one on social equity, one on economic resilience, and another on public health. These really reflect this idea of learning by doing, I think, quite well. And RCAP 2.0 now exists as a web resource rather than as a static print document. As you'll see, this enables us to do provide a much greater depth than what the RCAP can provide to those who are taking up the mantle of implementing the recommendations. All right, so I see, and if you go to the Compact website now, this is live on the site. You can also use a shortcut to get here, www.rcap2.org. That brings you right to the RCAP 2.0. So as I've noted, it is in fact a web resource. So there's a couple of different ways of cracking into this thing. The first is to just simply browse, come to the home page and scroll down, and you'll see the particular chapters or issue areas that are contained within the Regional Climate Action Plan. So going on down, you'll see some the new items that we talked about, and you'll see some of the old chapters, or at least the kind of static chapters that have come forward from the first Regional Climate Action Plan. So Sustainable Communities and Transportation has long framed recommendations around growth management issues and transportation issues to contributors to climate change. Certainly 45% of regional emissions are associated with the transportation sector, for instance, and thinking about recommendations here, both in terms of building resilience and reducing emissions is very important. So you can see that with each issue area, you'll get some opening narrative to help orient you. And then scrolling down, you'll see the actual recommendations. Let's jump into Sustainable Recommendation number 4, which deals with the idea of adaptation action areas and innovation that the Compact created during its legislative advocacy efforts back in the 2011 legislative session here in Florida. And then we've seen implementation focus on that throughout the course of the first Regional Climate Action Plan. So as you click into the recommendation, you'll see the particulars of what our working group experts have compiled in terms of thinking about adaptation action areas as a tool for land use planning. And then as you scroll further into this, you'll see specific resources that have been developed, white papers and other materials that have been published and really document very particular implementation efforts here in South Florida already. And then scrolling further, you see specific case studies. So given that we're here in Fort Lauderdale, you'll note that there's a very nice Fort Lauderdale case study talking about the implementation of adaptation action areas here within land use codes within the city of Fort Lauderdale. So scrolling down through this, you'll see the background, get more details, get more information. You see specifically the ability to go directly to the resources that the city has produced. Live links there, giving the land use planner in any of the 108 cities within the four compact counties an opportunity to dive in and look at these resources and think about how they could be applicable in their particular municipality. And then as you scroll further down, you see that as this was substantially similar to a recommendation within the first Regional Climate Action Plan, over the last 5 years, we have surveyed the municipalities and counties in Southeast Florida, asking them which of the RCAP 1.0 recommendations they had implemented. And so you'll see that these are the cities that have reported specific implementation. And you can click on any one city, say, we're here in Fort Lauderdale, so we can go look at the Fort Lauderdale page. Fort Lauderdale's homepage shows you where it is, shows you the case studies that they have produced, and then as you scroll further down, you can see the recommendations that Fort Lauderdale has reported to the compact that they have implemented already. Now, as we go forward, we will have opportunities for cities, obviously, to continue to report, and we'll provide linkages to each of the cities and the good work that they're doing, not only to help inform the public about all of the actions that are already underway and the real innovations that are happening here, but as a resource, too, particularly to perhaps smaller municipalities who lack the kinds of capacity, the staff expertise to really be able to kind of develop stuff like this out of whole cloth, really looking at sharing the capacity that we have within the region, which is a hallmark of the compact process. So you can just kind of scroll into this thing, right, and see all of the different recommendations, however you'd like to do it. But we've also heard loud and clear from many of the municipalities and other staff who are charged with implementing recommendations from the Regional Climate Action Plan that they'd like to have a better way of understanding which of these recommendations are related to what they do. So hearing that and really kind of thinking about and learning from how people in the past have used the kind of filtered views, we've created these filters for you. So just right there at the top, you can see these 3 boxes that enable you to say, I am I'm interested in, and I work in whatever particular capacity. And so just kind of hearkening to a bit of learning that I personally noted when Susie Toriente, my wonderful compact colleague, was the assistant city manager here in Fort Lauderdale. We saw her mark up the Regional Climate Action Plan in a really interesting way and then parcel out assignments to staff who were reporting to her. So I will call this the Susie Toriente scenario. So you say, I'm a municipality, and I'm an assistant city manager, and I have specific folks who report to me. So for now, let's just say energy and fuel issues report to me, and water reports to me. So you can easily populate the filters here, and then you get a list of the recommendations that have been tagged for municipal users in these particular issue areas. And then, of course, you can scroll down and click into each one of these. So another feature here is that you'll see the orange bar there. You can actually download this. So this generates a report, and you can download this as a spreadsheet, and you can then use that as an opportunity to keep track of the work that's happening within your given municipality. So, so that is the Susie view of RCAP, if I may. So, if perhaps you're not working in local government, perhaps you're a local not-for-profit who is starting to think about communications issues. How can you help advance some of the work that local government is doing here? So by selecting nonprofit organizations and indicating that I'm interested in communications, you get a particular view of the compact, RCAP 2.0, that shows you the recommendations that might be most important to you. Again, you can download that as a spreadsheet to help you manage whatever those things are. And so, the other kind of filter function that you could do is you could just say, I'm just interested in a couple of topics. I want to see, potentially from my point of view, I want to see some of the stuff that's kind of assigned to compact coordination. The 4-county multi-city agenda, and I'm thinking about social equity at the moment, so I want to see what that looks like as well. So you would enter this, and this might actually be my particular view at the moment to think about the kinds of issues that I want to do. So you will note that the website is live, and to the extent that folks are interested in seeing some of the great action that is happening across the region, and you'll hear more today. But do take a look. Look for these flyers. They'll be available out in the lobby at lunchtime today, and spend some time during the breaks going to rcap2.org. Thanks very much.